Hey guys, and welcome back to campus. I came back to campus to make a huge announcement. I'm being super dramatic about this all, but this is a really big deal. This, I think, is something interesting to some of you guys because I've been getting questions about it over the last year, and this is something huge that I've been having to keep under wraps. I don't really talk about it with many people who know me in real life, and I obviously haven't spoken about it here on YouTube where I kind of just talk about university. Yeah, so I just left some clues there, and also the color I'm wearing is a context clue. I got my freezy. It's a free freezy that the food services were giving out, and I said, "Thank you, U of T. This is the last nice thing you guys will do for me." So awesome. The white ones are the best ones, but also the only ones I can eat because I have a sensitivity to red 49 food dye. I can't do food dye very well. But yeah, okay. Big drum roll. Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. The announcement is I'm doing my master's at the London School of Economics and Political Science in London, England, starting in a couple days. Yeah, that's it. In a couple days, I will be moving from Toronto, Canada, which is where I've lived my entire life. I mean, to be specific, I grew up in the suburbs, but I was born in Toronto and I came back to the city for university. And you've seen the last 4 years of my life at the University of Toronto. And other than a 5 week summer abroad in Seville, Spain, I've never lived outside of Canada. So, yeah, I'm moving to London, England. I have my visa, I have my passport, obviously. I have my apartment, which I'm so excited about moving into and meeting my roommates for the first time in a couple days. I have my course set, I have my new university, I have orientation. I'm so excited to study at LSE. It's been a dream of mine for a very long time to live in Europe and study in Europe and work in Europe. I've always seen myself there. And before any European comes at me for grouping Europe as a monolith, I know that Europe is not a country. Thank you very much. I actually studied European politics for my undergrad, and that leads me on to my second announcement that my program is called European and International Politics and Policy. Yes, it's quite the mouthful, I have to admit, but we'll acronymize it. Is that a verb? We're making it a verb for today. But I wanted to quickly speak about the process and how I came to my decision because it has been a very long process, very convoluted and confusing, and I actually changed my mind. Spoiler alert, I wasn't meant to be going to London. I was meant to move into my dorm room in a completely different city. It's a long story. So let's get talking about this. Okay. So your first question is probably where did you even start? Like how did you end up at this point? La 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 la. And essentially, I've been thinking about this for probably over 2 years. So, starting in second year, when I really started studying my majors, so history and European affairs, I was absolutely enamored with history. And in terms of my European affairs major, I loved the European history aspects of European affairs the most. I just saw myself studying history in my master's, but I knew that that was never an option for me. And yeah, basically, it just came down to the fact that I decided I didn't want to go to law school, which was a big thing because my mom is a lawyer and I've always been pushed into law, like encouragingly pushed in terms of we know you can do this and we know you'd be great. Anyways, so I knew academia was out and I knew law was out for me. And that basically left doing a master's in politics and then entering kind of like diplomacy or journalism. I've grown really interested in working in journalism over the last 2.5 years. I truly think that it's a field that I would love to be in, but I'm not set in stone in kind of pursuing that. Throughout my time at U of T, especially in third year, I excelled in my politics classes, my political science classes. I'd get A's and A pluses, and I really felt a pressure to pursue that rather than history, even though history was something that I technically loved more and had a greater passion for. And I do credit my interest and passion for politics to my interest and passion in history. Like the chicken came before the egg, or the egg came before the chicken. History for me is the egg. That's what started it all. In third year, I knew I was doing a master's and I wasn't going to law school, but that wasn't set in stone. And in third year, I started strategically picking my classes so that I could have my references. This sounds awful, but you do have to strategize. By the fall semester of third year, I knew which two professors I wanted to be my academic references for my master's. And so I started picking as many classes as possible with these professors. And I found a third professor that I had like kind of as an option who I absolutely adored. And then by early summer between third and fourth year, I was making my list of master's programs I was interested in. And basically, to do that, I sat down with myself. I said, okay, I want to do European politics, something along those lines. I'm interested in journalism. Let's see if there's programs that kind of combine that, that combine. I wasn't really interested in IR, I never have been, but something along those lines, like international affairs, European politics. So that was the summer before my last year of uni. I was talking to everybody I possibly could, every adult I possibly could, about masters and postgrad and careers. I decided not to write the LSAT and I decided not to write the GRE because I knew I didn't want to study in the United States. That wasn't for me. I was very firmly certain that I wanted to do my master's in Europe and on the continent. Didn't want to study in the UK, or I thought I didn't want to study in the UK because all I heard about the UK was like, it's so expensive. I literally had someone tell me, you should only do a master's in the UK if you have a trust fund to pay for it. Now, I don't. That person did, and good for them, but I don't. So I was kind of like, yeah, probably not going to happen. So there were all those considerations, and basically, I was looking at schools in the EU that had masters in European politics, international affairs, journalism, that were in English, and kind of went from there. By this summer, between third and fourth year, I began asking my professors to just have a little cozy chat because I wanted to ask them in advance to be my references. I asked them in like late August, I want to say. And I didn't do it by email. I did ask to make an in person meeting with both of them. And I was so nervous that they were going to say no because I had a backup in case one of them said no. But that backup was a little iffy because I had only ever had one class with him. Although he's a sweetheart, he didn't really know me the way that the other two professors did because I'd had like two, three, four classes with these other professors. So, anyways, I asked them, and thankfully, both of them said yes. The second professor was a bit more challenging because he was actually no longer working as a professor at U of T. He had been promoted, I guess, appointed to be provost of Trinity College. And so I was actually worried he wouldn't be able to be a reference because it would be like a conflict of interest or something, because he was not just my former professor, but also the head of my college. So had a very big, scary meeting with him in his big provost office at Trin, and asked him in like the first 2 weeks of September, and he was very graciously kind and accepted and agreed to be my reference, even though he was super busy and he just started a new position, and I very much appreciated that. So had my references locked down before master's applications even opened at the end of September. I began applying. I didn't apply to many places, I will admit. I applied to less than what's on a hand. I didn't need to apply to random places because I knew I wasn't going to go there. Like I had my top 3 or 4, and that's what I applied to. I applied to Monk as my backup, which is crazy because Monk is a lot of people's dream schools and it's a wonderful school. And I applied to the Masters of Global Affairs at Monk. But that was always a backup because I really did not want to stay in Toronto. I did not want to stay at the University of Toronto. As much as I loved it here, I wanted to move on with my life. I wanted to live in Europe. I applied to LSE in England, and that was the only British school I applied to. I considered applying to Cambridge actually for early modern history. As I said, I kind of went against the idea of applying to a history master's. Yeah, so I didn't apply to Oxford and I didn't apply to Cambridge. And I don't know, I somewhat regret it because I'll always be wondering if I could have gotten in. But I think the chances were slim enough where I'm like kind of okay with the fact that I'll never know. So I'm just like, it wasn't meant for me. I wanted to study politics, and the politics programs at Oxford were not what I was looking for. So yeah, so I applied to LSE, and that was my only British school, and I applied to the one program. And then I applied to Sciences Po Paris for a joint master's in journalism and international affairs. And then the last school I applied to was the Geneva School, the Geneva Graduate Institute in Geneva, Switzerland. And I applied for the master's in international history and politics. That was my one concession to like the whole history thing where I was like, okay, I'm not going to study history. I did decide that that program was cool. And yeah, so as you may notice, I applied to two French speaking countries. That was because I consider bilingualism, multilingualism actually, to be like probably one of the best tools you can have in your personal toolkit. Bilingualism, at least for me, is super important. I'm Canadian and I've always considered working in government at some point in life or working in diplomacy or even the army. I'm pretty patriotic actually, which is kind of funny because Canadians are not known for being patriotic. I'm quite patriotic and I would love to serve my country eventually in the future. So I wanted to be in a French speaking environment. That was kind of my dream. And that's why I was ecstatic when my first acceptance rolled in early February of 2025. And I got news that I had been accepted to the Geneva Graduate Institute. And the Graduate Institute was actually my second choice at the time. So I was just over the moon because, you know, there's always that fear that you don't get in anywhere. I mean, I even thought like I wouldn't get into Monk. There was the chance. I didn't really know where I stood compared to other applicants. I thought I was pretty decent, but I didn't have a 4.0 GPA. Who knows, right? So I got my acceptance and I was just so overjoyed because suddenly I could see myself living in Switzerland for 2 years, studying there, becoming fully, like, completely bilingual and not just like French immersion bilingual that I speak, like, properly bilingual, able to write essays in French because the Institute is a bilingual institution. So our classes would be given in English, but we have the right to express ourselves in French if we wanted to. And that just like, I was over the moon about that. Switzerland seemed like such a romantic country to me. I'd never been, but I was just like, yeah. And actually, the one thing I didn't like was I had 2 weeks to respond, basically, to my offer. So if I accepted, you know, I got my place and I wouldn't have to worry if I got rejected from everywhere else. But if I rejected my offer and didn't get in anywhere else, I'd be screwed. And I'm not a risk taker. And it was my second choice. So I thought to myself, yeah, let's accept. So that's basically the story of how I was meant to study at the Geneva Graduate Institute. And I was ecstatic about it. I was so, so, so excited. I got an apartment in the dorms. I had my deposits paid. I'd started my visa process, and things changed. If you've been following me this summer, you would have seen that I actually went to Geneva, Switzerland in May. At the time, I was touring my future university because I had accepted, and as I just said, I had everything ready to go. Well, actually, even while I was there, I was walking around campus with my boyfriend. He was showing me the city, and I called my parents and I said, I love Switzerland. I adore it here. Geneva's so cute, but I don't want to go here anymore. I've changed my mind. I really, really want to go to LSE instead. that was complicated because LSE was not really an option. I kind of mentioned when I applied, it was the only British school I applied to because just British universities were just, the programs were so expensive. It didn't really seem in the realm of possibility for me. When I got accepted into LSE, I was over the moon because it felt nice to be accepted and it felt nice to see like they thought I was good enough to study there. But I never really thought, oh, I can actually accept this because it was just so, so expensive. And I came home from Geneva and I talked about it with my parents and I said, I don't want to go to Geneva. I'll make it work and I think I'll like it and I'll make friends and I think I'll like my program. But I said to them, I don't think this is the right spot for me. I don't think the city is right for me. I don't think the university is right for me. And I don't think my program is right for me. And I really want to go to LSE instead. And I understand why I can't go to LSE. And I guess I'll just go to Monk and do a study abroad and just call it a day. But I think I'll be so unhappy if I have to go to Monk. And my parents, they came back and they told me, like, we want to help you go. My mom was really the driving force behind that. Big shout out to my mom for making this possible because it would not have been possible. I would not have gone. I would have gone to Geneva or I would have gone to Monk if my mom didn't care. And I accepted LSE, but when I accepted it, I didn't really know if things would fall into place and if I really truly would get to go. So that's why I'm finally making this announcement because I really didn't know if it would happen. Even 3 weeks ago, I was looking for an apartment still, and I was like, Mom, like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to go. I can't find somewhere to live. And at the time, Monk was still on the table for me, so it was my backup. It was scary. I only got my visa like August 1st. I got my apartment in mid August. We only booked our plane ticket like a couple days ago. So it never really seemed real to me. But I've said my goodbyes in Toronto now, and today is actually the last day I'm going to even be in this city. I'm here for the Hozier concert. So I thought today I could finally make this announcement. We're back. I just wanted to basically end this off in saying, yes, it was a very complicated process, a process that took a long time, but I'm just so excited to start this new chapter of my life. And the two people I have to thank the most for where I am now are my mom and Athos, my boyfriend. I wanted nothing more than to leave, and now I'm just so sad that I am leaving. And I know it's the right thing to do, and I know it'll be an exciting new chapter for me, but it's hard to leave those I love, and a city that I love so much, and a university that I adore. I love U of T so much, and it's really difficult actually for me to be on campus right now, seeing everybody in the libraries and things. And I'm so, so grateful I got the opportunity to study here. And truly, in another life, I would have done my master's here as well, or maybe law school. But I just feel drawn to studying abroad and living abroad. And I think that Toronto is a bit too small for me right now at 21. And I'm really trying to be like an Anthony Bourdain disciple and just move. There's a really famous quote by Anthony Bourdain about moving and him basically urging anybody in their 20s who's able to go abroad and live abroad if they can and just see as much as they possibly can. And that's what I'm really trying to do. It's what I've always wanted to do as well. It's not like I'm forcing myself to do something I don't want to do. But it is really sad. And I've been having a really tough week knowing this is my last week. Knowing this is my last week in Toronto with Athos and everything like that. So I guess a thank you to him. Thank you to you guys for watching all these 4 years while I've been at U of T. I really love this university, and I will remember it for the rest of my life as one of the happiest eras of my life, I'm sure. but now it's time for a new era. So I'll see you in London. Bella out.